welcome to another edition of Kyle Meredith with. It's the interview series presented by WFPK at WFPK.org, Consequence, and the Consequence Podcast Network. Thanks as always for making your way here, checking out the series. You know what to do. If you like what you see, what you hear, hit that subscribe button. I put out 3 new interviews every single week, so it's a great way to keep up with your favorite artists. I'm so excited to have him back on once again. Johnny Marr is here. Hello.
Hi, Kyle. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you too. You've got a lot going on this time around. We get to talk about a new best of compilation called Spirit Power, and this really fun new book that you put out that I think you're actually touring a little bit right now with the book readings, Marr's Guitars, all converging at once. That must be planned a little bit.
Do you know, it was either really great accidental planning or it was really bad planning. I'm kind of not sure which it is. It was the book, which is, it's called Marr's Guitars. It's a collection of my guitars. I'll talk about that in a minute if you want. But the planning of that that just was going to happen when it was going to happen, because things, you know, are to do with scheduling of the shoots and then getting it all together and the layout and when the publishers want to put it out. But it was like a convergence, I guess is the word, because I guess it must have been about 14, 15 months ago. My management in the record company, we had a meeting, and they put it to me. My manager, basically, who knows me very well, he said, "Okay, so I know you're going to go back in the studio and start making another record, right? Because kind of that's my go-to." I said, "Yeah." He said, "Well, don't, because you need to give everyone a little bit of a break. You just put two double album out, and me and the record company think you should celebrate the 10 years of the solo career with a compilation, like a best of." So that came from somebody else, and wow, it's noisy. That came from somebody else, and the book was already gathering steam, and that was going to come out when it was going to come out. So these two things have both come out at the same time, and so I guess everybody pretended that it was on purpose. In fact, it's not, but it's kind of cool the way it's worked out. I've got these gigs when I get home. I've got 2 big shows at this beautiful new concert hall, brand new building in Manchester. So we put an orchestra together for that. So there's a whole load of stuff going on. I'm busier than I've ever been in my life.
Yeah. Well, it is fun to see them both, because looking back at the last 10 years with Spirit Power Best Of, but also, as you say in the book, in the beginning of it, that it gave you an opportunity to sort of tell your life story through these guitars. And I think as a fan, that was a really great way to kind of get into it.
Yeah, well, thank you. I mean, that honestly was unexpected. That again was not the vision for the book was purely that for anyone, people who get to see it or are interested in it. It came about because my friend Pat Graham, who's a really ace photographer, he specializes in these really close-up, super detailed macro photographs where he goes really in on a rusty bit of the guitar or a crack where it's been beaten up against a microphone stand, and they're the things he likes. So these beautiful abstract photographs. Many years ago, I thought, oh wow, I'd love to be able to put a book out of that using my guitars as the source material. So it wasn't this idea of a retrospective thing, or hey everybody, look at how great my guitar collection is. It was just a coffee table book of beautiful abstract photographs with my guitars as the material. And I proceeded on that basis. And then in the shooting of all the photos and getting all these guitars together and all of that, these stories just came out about them. And then, remembering that Ed O'Brien reminded me that I loaned Radiohead 3 guitars for when they did In Rainbows. And then I remembered that with Bernard Sumner, he told me that I'd loaned him what my favorite Red Les Paul. And I remember him phoning me and saying that he'd done this new order track he was really happy with. This was in the 90s, and that was Regret. And that's a great song. So that was done on one of my guitars. And then Franz Ferdinand used one. And then Chrissy Hine gave me one. And now Rogers. And then I wrote Meet His Murder on this one. All this stuff came out in the making of this photograph book. So then that became just a part of the book in its own right. But I never planned on telling my life story through these guitars. That was just a bonus. So for people who are interested in myself and the Smiths and Modest Mouse and New Order and Radiohead and Pet Shop Boys and all of this stuff, that was just a nice part of the process, a real bonus that came out of all of this.
Yeah. Well, you know, and I'm over here, of course. I read like, oh, that was the guitar that was played on this song, and I'll jump on, I'll listen to that song real quick, or I'll think of a song and like try to find which. Like it ends up becoming this really fun game. What I didn't expect, of course, was you showed a picture of the Fender Telecaster. I'm in Louisville, and you were saying that was one you bought here while you were in Louisville with Modest Mouse.
I remember last time we talked, so that's right. I think I might have mentioned Louisville because for a British boy growing up in the 70s, Louisville's all about it's all about the champ, you know,
right?
And it's all about Muhammad Ali. So I was very excited to be in Louisville, and then I just happened to find this dead cool guitar store, and it all came together as yeah. So I talk about that in the book. I do call it the Louisville Slugger because I'm from England, you know. But I got a Telecaster, and it's a real like machine. That guitar weighs a ton, but usually that means it sounds kind of dark. So yeah, I remember that show. I was buzzing to be there. Yeah, so I've got the Louisville Slugger in there. Yeah.
I mean, it's the only thing you could have called it. I mean, you could have called it the Champ, I guess, but a little Slugger, maybe a little bit. But
hey, next time you've given me a good reason to get another guitar in Louisville. Well done.
Come on back. There's some of these guitars, of course, as you point out in the book, that you become known for, whether it's the Rickenbacker 330, Gibson ES 355. When you have these guitars, of course, you have all of these guitars, as you told, it's 130 something, whatever it was, but when you become known for something, for a sound, for a look, does that tempt you to go to those when you're writing a song like, oh, maybe I throw them a bone. Maybe this one gets to sound like whatever song from 30 years ago.
Well, that's a good point. So in the book, I was excited to illustrate that the guitar that I mentioned earlier, the Red Les Paul that Bernard used in New Order, that's the sound of that of a lot of my kind of, let's call them signature, for fans, signature riffs, Headmaster Ritual, Generate off my solo career. That joke isn't funny anymore. I want the one I can't have. We share the same skies with the Cribs. And then more recently, Pretty Boy with Noel Gallagher. People just assume that's a Rickenbacker because it's this kind of chiming arpeggio thing. And it's a good question because when I went to play on Noel's last album, or if someone asks me to come and play on a record tomorrow, I will now. So the answer is yes, I will bring that guitar because it makes me do a thing that people want me to do, and there's nothing wrong with that. Frankly, I'm happy now to have something that people want me to do. Hey, listen, you know, I've done I play a lot of different guitar parts that don't sound like this jamming man. All right, over 40 years with all these different bands, but I've got no problem bringing to whether it's something with Hans Zimmer or whoever I've been privileged enough to play with. If I can find those melodies for them, that's a good thing, you know. And that guitar helps me find those melodies. Yeah.
Hearing you talk about the way you talk about it, and even thinking about how you've you've talked about even some of the newer songs like Somewhere, like you use the word banger, you know, or something like that. Do you find that you write from feeling more than story at all?
Usually, nearly always, I write down ideas for stories and concepts, and it's a long list in a lot of books that don't really come out because I tend to find, I was listening to Paul Simon talking about this as well. I have these ideas for concepts of songs and titles and stuff like that, but generally I'm led by the music, and all of these ideas I've got often don't really fit the emotion or contrast enough the emotions, because sometimes with the art of songwriting, it's a good device to just switch it really round. So if you've got like a really upbeat song, I had this song called Armatopia, and the actual subject matter of that song is actually very serious. It's an eco song, what I called an eco disco song. Mm-hmm. Now, if I'd have just written if I'd have written a song about the ecology and about the burning seas and married that to some music that was very somber, it just would have been like a pity fest, and it wouldn't really have been a particularly good listen. But that's one of the great things about being a songwriter. I married it to a kind of upbeat kind of disco banger, and so it's basically, this is how we're going to dance to the end of the world, and that brings a different element into it that just made me want to finish the song. And when I play it on stage, it's a good way. It amuses me that I get this message across of ecological doom. That's why it's called Armatopia. It's the cross between like Armageddon and Newtopia. But to answer your question, I'm led by feeling. I'm led by a feeling in the music. I either want to contrast it or I want to honor it, or enhance it.
And in some of those moods that you've recorded through the years, I mean, of course, we think of it all the way back with How Soon Is Now and how that song feels, and for what that song meant to me probably isn't a surprise when we get to songs like I'm looking at my list here, like Spiral Cities and The Priest, that there's a darkness of those and a moodiness to those, which still has this groove to it. When you lock into the stuff, man, you are checking all my boxes.
Oh, thanks, Kyle. I appreciate that. It's good that Spiral Cities would definitely be one of the favorite songs I've ever done, and I'm so proud of that song. And when I do it live, I'm proud of the band. I don't know whether proud's the right word, but I enjoy it because when it came out, some fans were like, "Oh, it's so 80s," and I was like, "Yeah, it kind of is." Well, I'm from the 80s, so what? And then so it's a good thing. But when we play it, especially if we play at festivals when there's other bands on the bill, I know people aren't going to hear another song like that during that day. It's unusual. It sets up an atmosphere. It does have a groove. I'm not trying to beat someone to the finish line in a race to get to number one in the pop charts. I'm just trying to set up a cool listen for 4 minutes. And The Priest, How Soon Is Now, they are coming from the same kind of headspace in that they're very heady. Mm-hmm. They're kind of heady music, and I like, that's my favorite thing. Even if it's in a modern pop song, if it's heady at the same time, a little oral movie, if you like. Mm-hmm. It's kind of like being on drugs without having to be a druggie.
It's very well said, because that paints the picture perfectly. And Vincent, I know I've got the poster over my shoulder with Depeche Mode, but covering I Feel You, I mean, that fits all in there. And I think I remember one of our earlier interviews when you were very much in that Depeche Mode headspace and that. But quickly, because I know we're hitting the clock here, okay. The new songs too was Somewhere and The Answer, and you've got to have that, it's a best of, but you represent something new on this. When you look at this 10 years, do you find that anything defines this era for you? Like, now it's an era.
Yeah, it is an era. I guess, well, for me, Spiral Cities is a big part of it. I think for people looking at it from the outside, if they heard Hi Hello, perhaps, because it's got echoes of what I've done in the past, but I'm singing on it, so it's a different thing because you hear my voice in it. I guess Easy Money, Easy Money was a big song in Europe, so I have people who come to see me in my shows now in the audience who, when we do Easy Money, you can say, "Oh, it's this guy. He's the Easy Money guy." Seriously, I could play This Charming Man or How Soon Is Now, and the audience are reacting. But for a lot of people, they go, "Oh, it's that guy." So I'm hoping that the new ones can sort of add to that. But for me, it would be the ones you mentioned. I guess like Spiral Cities is very much the one. Maybe Spirit, Power and Soul has added to that. because quite a lot of this is to do with the way I sing, I guess now, you know, like because I'm very lucky. My band, like have encouraged me. Like you mentioned when we did the Depeche Mode cover, I was playing the riff, and you and my bass player was like, "Oh, what's that?" So I said, "Oh, yes, I feel you, Depeche Mode." So I started singing it, and he said, "Wow, it really suits your voice." So the band have got a distinctive sound. I know I'm known for being a guitar player, but we sound like us, and I think it's a good, valid listen. When I was a teenager, two bands I really liked put out best ofs: Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers and Blondie. So I already had the records and I knew the songs, but I like that they put out a best of. I thought that was really cool. My sister would buy it, and a couple of my pals and stuff. So I'm thinking along the same lines with this best of. Really do the similar kind of job to those bands. I'm in good company.
I'm still a big fan of best ofs, and Blondie. I know you're on the new record too. I'm really looking forward to hearing what I was talking with Clem not too long ago. He was telling me about that. I can't wait to hear what that's like as well.
Blondie still sound like Blondie and no one else. It's great.
Yeah. I love this stuff. I love that it's all happening at once. Marr's Guitars is a great book. Spirit Power, the best of Johnny Marr. It's always a pleasure talking to you, man. Thanks so much for taking the time.
Thank you, Kyle. Oh, I appreciate it, man.
Yeah. Come down to Louisville, buy another guitar.
Yeah. Well, that's a good sentence.
Right on. Thank you so much.
Man. Have fun, Kyle.
Yeah. And thanks to my guest. Also, thanks to you for checking out the episode in the series. Before you get out of here, hit that subscribe button. Again, you get 3 brand new interviews every single week. New one every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at right here on YouTube, or of course anywhere in podcast land, including iTunes, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Podchaser, NPR, or WFPK.org as well. A great way to keep up with your favorite artists and discover new ones as well. Then after that, actually head over to WFPK.org. That's where I do a show Monday through Friday, 6 p.m. Eastern. It's an hour full of song premieres, music news, anniversary spins, bonus interviews, Monday through Friday, 6 p.m. Eastern at WFPK.org. Consequence has your music and film news. You can also find me on the social media spots, Facebook, Instagram, mostly on Twitter. All 3 of them, the address is at Kyle Meredith. Do hope you like and follow along. That does it for another edition. I'm Kyle Meredith. I'll see you next time.